shall we? Let's come on then. Let's do this thing. Starting up by standing, aren't we, Ralph? Good boy. Ralph is about to come into shot, I think. Starting off by standing, that is. Let me just give Ralph a block. He likes to sit on a block. All right, Ralph, hang on a minute. Here you go, buddy. Here you go. You like a block to sit on, don't you, Ralphie? We're in Tadasana. Feet together or apart, chest up, arms back. Not overly dynamic in the way the arms go back. We definitely want to focus on letting go. So that is releasing that which drives the arms forwards, which is tension in the pectoralis, in the chest, which essentially revolves around being somebody going somewhere. The sort of central message, I suppose you could say, of yoga is to recognize, to see for yourself directly in the immediate moment, in each moment, this sense of being someone going somewhere. So you can feel it, as I say, in the chest muscles, and its release is, the release of the chest muscles, that is, releases the arms backwards. But it's a psychophysical experience. It's a psychophysical experience. There's a sense of a central channel which can be useful. Of course, in tantric traditions where central channel features, one finds the central channel extends always centrally, obviously, but at various lengths. Sometimes it terminates at the heart center, sometimes it terminates at what's called the khanda, 3 finger widths below the navel. Sometimes it terminates at the pelvic floor, and sometimes even just below the pelvic floor. Here we're going to visualize and feel it at the pelvic floor. So that is to say, between the pubic bone and tailbone. Now that takes tuning in, to tune in between the pubic bone and the tailbone is lovely, actually, you know, because it's simple, but it's also rich. It's not a complicated task. It's a small area of the universe. But actually it points to the vastness of the universe itself through interdependence. So you feel between the pubic bone and tailbone, and you'll feel what you think is a different thing, but what you feel is aliveness, aka interdependence. Raise the arms up. When you're ready, it's called urdhva, upwards, hasta, hands, upwards hands. Lightly tone the tummy, breathe through the nose, move in ways that draw the energy in and up through the central channel, which we've already described in this particular instance as starting at the pelvic floor. We've mentioned that it can be lower. In fact, it makes a lot of sense to have the Muladhara chakra in the earth, as it were. If you were sitting, then it would be below your pelvic floor in the earth. That's a very, very nice way to practice. Huh? Take a big circle to release. Hands to the heart center. It's simply called Tadasana Namaskara. So a range of Tadasanas. Keep coming back to our original point, the release of the tension that's driven by self. I am. What am I supposed to achieve? Where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to become? Or what must I resist becoming? Right? This is the matrix. It's what catches us, you know, to use the metaphor of that film, although it's not just a metaphor from the film. The word matrix, the word mother, the word matar in Sanskrit, all come from the same root, which means matrix, which means interdependence, which means, in a sense, the home of all things, the mother of all things. All manifest things are part of the matrix. It sounds like it's a negative thing in a way, but it's not a negative thing. It's a neutral thing. It's just the way things are. Interlace your fingers, stretch your arms diagonally down, and then arms up. So another version of Tadasana, Urdhva Baddha Angulyasana Tadasana. So that's upwardly bound fingers. Urdhva Baddha, upwardly bound. Angulya means fingers. And then, of course, Tadasana. You can even add the word samastitihi to make the name really long. Urdhva Baddha Angulyasana Tadasana Samastitihi. Samastitihi is a really good name, particularly the last particle, stiti, for poses generally, because stiti means still, stable, stationary, or aware of that which is those things, that part of oneself which is, gosh, it's difficult to use words. It's almost impossible to use words, really. But that part which is always present and never waxes nor wanes. Take a big circle, hands back to the heart center, back to Tadasana, Namaskara. Breathe easy, breathe calmly. Jaw soft. Now, for what we're going to do next, you might need a belt, a strap, or tea towel even, a sock, because we're going to bring one arm up our backs and the other one's going to come up to meet it. And, you know, we've just probably not that long out of bed. I got up at 6:20, so that's not yet quite an hour. So the body's still a little stiff, perhaps. Fine. That's where you use the belt or the strap. But also you listen. We listen together. So breathe deep. There's listening and responding, we called it in Vajrasati Yoga School, that I'm very lucky to be part of. Listening and responding, right? They're kind of one thing. The and is not quite descriptive in the way it is. So listening / responding might be better. It's kind of one thing, two aspects of one thing. Like dancing is listening, responding. You don't listen, okay, now dance. You know, it's all happening at once, you see. Okay, release, slow and easy. Arms by your sides into Tadasana. Make sure your feet are still awake, so you can move them. And breath, of course, is your primary indicator that everything's as it should be, flowing. Prakriti, or the mother, or the matrix, or the goddess, however you want to put it, she's a dancer. She's commonly described as a dancer. Commonly, in text, that is. Raise the other arm up, and similarly, take direct or indirect hold via a sock or a belt or a tea towel or whatever you can find that would suffice. Nasal breathing, eyes soft, brain soft, jaw soft, tongue soft. And it's meditative, that is to say, we're absorbed. And again, it's fluidity. We can pick on many different Indic soteriologies or practices, philosophies that are pitched at liberation. And we'll find different words, different descriptions of the same thing. Early Buddhists describe it as the rising and passing of dharmas. Particles of reality arising and disappearing, arising and disappearing. They believe those particles of reality to be real, but only temporarily so. Right? That's early Buddhists. Later Buddhists had a slightly different view. We won't go into that now. Okay, slow and easy. Release. Arms again back to Tadasana. Keep limber. Maybe have a little shake out at this point. So you're not feeling stuck or stationary. You're feeling limber. You're feeling lively. Right? Great. Now you've got two choices: Tadasana with the arms held behind you, or Tadasana with the hands up the back in this Paschima Namaskara. So Paschima means behind. It's got a few different meanings. It can intimate even the past. It can intimate the West for reasons we won't expand on now. So this is Tadasana Paschima Namaskara, or Paschima Namaskara Tadasana, or Paschima Namaskara Tadasana Samastitihi. If you really want to give yourself a hard time with trying to remember things, that's and then you say yes. So we started this Tadasana exploration with an exploration of the pectoralis tissues and the relationship between tension there, the arms being pulled forwards, and the general attitude, I suppose you could call it, of being or not being. So Shakespeare's to be or not to be, actually, that's not the question. They're both the same thing from a yogic point of view, because they revolve around a self-construct, and it's that self-construct that gets us caught, as it were, in the matrix. Nothing wrong with the matrix, it's neutral. Being caught in it is the problem. Being deluded that it constitutes one's real self in terms of a permanent, fixed, lasting self is what causes us suffering, mental malaise. So conversely, seeing directly the non-selfness by letting go. It's, being brave, you could say. It's like, be brave. And, it's quite a good place to experiment at home. It's just us, friends, we're all friends. It's a good place to go, okay, what could possibly, if I just let go, what could be the danger there? And then you allow the answers to the fears to come, and then you notice they don't have any grounds, So you let go. You've tried the other way. Now try this way. Okay, slow and easy release. Beautiful posture. Arms by your sides. Tadasana with the feet a little way apart. So still Tadasana. Here we check that the feet are parallel. A line running through the gap between the second and third toe and out through the middle of the heels. Raise the arms again. Lightly tone your tummy. You might need to move your arms intuitively after that last stretch. It can be quite powerful. And you might need to move the body. It's certainly something we recommend, isn't it? Bending the knees, whatever. Try not to overthink it, because thinking always leads to doubt. And the experiment we can do, which we've done before, is if you're not sure if what I'm saying is true about thinking, think about it. Thinking always leads to doubt. If you're not sure if that's true, think about it. Okay. Good job. Big circle, hands to the hips. We're going to take the next pose on the diagonal. So we're going to take one foot forwards. In my case, it's towards you, and one foot backwards. In my case, it's away from you, the screen. We're going to turn the foot that we took forwards towards the front of our mat, and we're going to turn it so the instep of the foot is parallel, precisely parallel to the front of the mat. The back toes don't have to turn in as much as we might ordinarily want them to in these kind of postures, but shouldn't turn out. So play with that a little. Stretch your arms, lift your chest, breathe deep, find the pelvic floor. Inhale, exhale. It's wobbly Trikonasana, especially earlier in the morning. Your mind might want to reach out for programs. And because we practice the other version of Tadasana more regularly than this one, you might well find yourself disorientated, which we love. Discombobulation leaves the mind kechari, like she who flies around in space, kechari. Breathe deep, breathe honest, playful, natural, playful and natural. Jaw soft, eyes soft. Okay, good job. Come on up. With due care, bring yourself out of that and bring the posture round the other leg. So similarly, the front foot, the instep of the front foot is parallel to the front of your mat. The back toes you check, we check, we're all checking. Don't turn out. We stretch the arms and open the chest and release the neck, which is connected to the mind, of course. Inhale, exhale, coming down. So feeling each micro moment is the same as early schools of Buddhism, feeling the arising and passing of particles of reality, what they call dharmas or dhammas. Dharmas is the Sanskrit, dhammas is the Pali. It's the in the Pali, it's the addition of an extra M and the taking away of the R that makes dhamma. this technical point. Okay, breathe easy. Finding the pelvic floor is a beautiful, because it's not grasping, it's spacious, it's moving, it's fluid, it's dance-like, it's alive. That's the nature of aliveness, isn't it? It's fluidity. Things feel that they're not alive when our space holders for reality become the reality itself. Our labels become our experience. Then life loses its life, Our labels, if our labels become our experience, then life loses its aliveness. Inhale, come on up. Well done, everyone. Feet coming skillfully, calmly, back towards each other. And back to Tadasana temporarily. And standing with your arms by your sides. So I'm doing slight microphone adjustments here. Standing with your arms by your sides. In Tadasana. Getting ready for Vrikshasana by raising up a heel. You choose which heel. It's up to you. Raise a heel. And getting ready means waking up again. Getting beyond tatparam, the space holders, the labels for reality, to the reality itself. This is sometimes described as first order and second order reality. So second order reality is our thoughts and opinions and projections and reactions, conditioned reactions. First order reality is before that. So get into your foot arches, medial, lateral, transverse, 3 arches per foot, 6 in total on bipedal beings. And then go ahead and raise up and take hold. And you bring a heel into your inner thigh, as high up as you can, or wherever it comes to. It might not reach the inner thigh. That's fine as well. Hands to the heart center. Breath spontaneous. Natural, sahaja in Sanskrit. Little needs to be said. Breath is everything. Okay. Release your hands, place your foot, catch your breath. That means take a deliberately deep breath, just to expel any tension. Maybe 2 or 3 of those deliberately deep breaths. And feeling into the foot arches of the other foot. The foot is now going to be your standing leg foot. And in your own time, when you feel aliveness has arrived to at least some extent, then you go ahead and it's heel into thigh, thigh into heel, hands into prayer, breath spontaneous and natural. Again, little needs to be said. Breath is everything. Good job. Release your hands, place your foot, catch a breath. You did well. Shake out a little bit, keep limber and loose. So Vrikshasana is a great example of of some reality being endlessly interesting, but our label of it, oh, tree pose, I've done tree pose, I've done tree, I know how many times a lot, but it's still endlessly interesting. Step your feet apart generously. Hands on your hips. Checking your feet are lined up with each other, equidistant from the front of your mat, same distance. Back toes in, front foot and leg out, turn on the ball of the foot first, finish off the turn on the heel. Obviously, we're going to do both sides, so it won't have mattered which way you've started. Stretch your arms, although it does if you're in a class in real life, right? So inhale, exhale, come down, Trikonasana, the pose we did on the diagonal, we're now doing not on the diagonal. Hopefully the diagonal paradigm has given our minds a little bit more spaciousness, less clinging. So we're a little bit more open to the here and now reality of Trikonasana rather than ideas and opinions. Your top arm can be stretched up. One can even look up. One's hand could be potentially on the floor as long as one didn't side flex to reach the floor. So it's less common that that's possible without compromising the pose in a way that we don't want to, because if we side flex, we can't turn the spine, and that can cause inhibition of the neck and so on. So look forwards or up, don't look down. Make sure your stride is long. You might notice the length of stride I've taken here. The pose is, after all, Utthita Trikonasana, expanded, extended Trikonasana. Inhale, come on up. What a pose. Gosh. Turning for the second side, you can have your hands on your hips or keep them raised, whatever feels is most conducive to a feeling of absorption. Light tone in the tum again. Inhale when you're ready to that lead arm. Exhale, coming down. So feel the arising and passing of the particles of reality, dhammas, which is one way of describing the living moment, right? To feel the living moment, everything must be living, right? In the Tantra, they say, only God can know God, right? That's one way of putting it. Or only the goddess can know the goddess, right? So if the goddess is everything and everything is in flux, you mustn't try to be something that's not in flux. And that includes the breath, right? Everything should be relaxed, flowing, going with the flow, man. Okay, that kind of, hey man, just go with the flow. All those hippie sayings, a lot of them were right. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Breathe deep, breathe honest. The sense of the bottom shoulder blade, energy drawing down from the bottom shoulder blade to a point below where the bottom elbow would bend, huh? Below that. So we're pulling the whole length of the long head of the tricep. Obviously the triceps have 3 heads. Inhale, come up. And then turn the feet to the front, hands on the hips. Breathing through your nose, huh? Deep and honest and expressive. Then, if you're ready to raise the arms again, straight away, go ahead. Turn your palms. Make sure the trapezius is loose and raise the arms up. Make sure the trapezius is loose. That is your neck and upper back, down to your the bottom of the rib cage. But predominantly we're focused on the upper section up and the middle section of the trapezius, which reflects the mental attitude as well. So the mental attitude must be loose as well. Back toes in, front foot and leg out, whole body turns to one direction. You choose which direction. Lift the back heel, externally rotate it, and then descend it again. Some of you probably recognize we're coming to Virabhadrasana number 1. Light tone on the tum. So that's reiterative, draws in and up and in and up. Multiple times, reiterative. Breath, deep, honest, expressive. Deep, honest, expressive. Inhale. Exhale, bend your front knee. Concentrate on the inner groin of the back leg, the stretch across the pubic bone. The muscle there is stretched and pulled across the pubic bone, from where it then goes underneath the abdominals and connects into the sides of the lower spine, up to the beginning of the ribs, where the ribs connect with the spine. But our focus is really mostly, but not entirely lower, across the groin. We can feel the stretch, but we want to go more than feeling it. We want to give to it, which involves psychophysical release, psychophysical respiratory release. Because everything is one, for one thing to release, everything must release, you see? Because everything is one, for one thing to release, everything must release. So if you think, oh, I'd love to be more flexible, right, in the posture, don't think you can just stretch and stretch and stretch your muscles. You know, you'll get a certain place there, but there's a lot repressed in that. Honest or open stretch, which is pure, that is to say, it's not, nothing's hidden. It involves everything. Inhale, come up, turn back to the front, roll down. Virabhadrasana, one beautiful pose. Hands on the hips if you want a little rest and take a couple of breaths. So, of course, those breaths should be expressive, beautifully expressive. The eyes should be soft, the brain should be soft. Right, Ralph? What do you think? He thinks yes. Stretch your arms, turn your palms, raise your arms up without impinging on the roots of the neck. Light tone in the tummy. Breath through the nose, finding the pelvic floor. Back toes in, front foot and leg out. Whole body turns. Walk the front foot further across the width of the mat. Lift the back heel, externally rotate it. And then descend it again. Breath coming and going, finding the pelvic floor. Releasing, as I say, the roots of the neck. Eyes soft, brain soft, throat soft. We're going to focus again on the groin, on the top of the inner thigh. As we inhale, raise up from the hip joints. Exhale, bend your front knee. Focus then on that stretch. Back leg, top of the inner thigh, across the pubis. And know, in the way we move, that release is universal if it's going to be honest. So to bring honest release, there may be movements, subtle or otherwise, that serve to hydrate the fascia, serve to melt some of the extraneous fascia, serve to heat the muscle and to provide more ease and of stretch thereby. But the big focus is on this inner groin, on the inner groin. Inhale, come on up with the pelvic floor, inner awareness. What a pose Virabhadrasana 1 is. Big circle, hands to hips. Catch your breath. A few deep breaths, honest breaths, expressive breaths again. So just enjoying the breath, essentially. Now we're going to do exactly the same pose again because it's useful to do so. Stretch the arms, turn the palms, raise the arms up. And we call it exactly the same pose. Of course, as mental beings, that is, beings that create reality through our thoughts, or it's not actually reality, it's what appears to be reality, it's mind created, then doing the pose again is like, oh, I've done that one. But the reality is, no, we haven't. You know, remember, it's always dharmas, impermanent particles of reality. Every moment is new. Let's see the truth of that as we turn to the first side again. Walk the front foot further across the width of the mat, lift the back heel, externally rotate it, descend it. Light tone in the tummy and find the pelvic floor. Remember, the breath must flow. To know God, you have to be God. Only God can know God. That's that tantric expression. Or only the goddess can know the goddess, right? If the goddess is Prakriti and Prakriti is always dancing, you can't know her hypothetically because there's nothing there to grasp within a concept, within an idea. Just as a wave is ungraspable, but is knowable by giving, like a surfer gives to a wave. Inhale, exhale, bend your knee, focus on, well, the whole pose, but with that beautiful extra focus on the psychophysical release behind the sense of release of the inner groin that leads to a magical calmness. So deep, honest, expressive breaths. Playful, investigative, relaxed, and trusting. The yogini is taken into the arms of the goddess, as it were, who negates clinging, right? If you see it as one, it negates clinging. Inhale, come up. In the film, The Matrix, turn to the front, hands on the hips, Keanu Reeves is liberated as, what's he called? Neo? By seeing the Matrix. It's the Matrix that frees him, you could say. He sees his true self by seeing the Matrix. Now, that's an interesting point that's sometimes not fully comprehended. Turn, raise, lift. So although in the movie, the Matrix could appear sort of sinister and wrong and, delusional and so on, it's only delusional to the point that you think that you are it, or the reality described by the habits within it are ultimately you. But once you see it, just as it is, you're liberated. It's called kaivalya in Sanskrit, where you discern the purusha from the prakriti, the essence person, as it were, the soul, if you like, from the dance of reality, of the phenomenological reality. Back toes in, front foot and leg out, whole body turns. Lift the back heel, externally rotate it, descend it again. Focus on the inner groin as you inhale, exhale, bend the knee. Play is part of the way we relate to Prakriti. The way we get to know her is to give to her. When we realize that which we thought was ultimately me is actually her, that's true bhakti, that's true devotion. It's like, this is yours. These physical sensations, these emotions, these thoughts, this body, that body, the clouds, growing grass. This is yours. This is all hers. And that's where we find liberation. Then we see it as a beautiful pattern that's always subtly changing. Then the matrix is something so beautiful. Inhale, come up. Back to the front, hands to the hips. Walk your feet towards each other. Have a little shake out or shimmy out to keep things loose. I'm turning sideways, partly so I can see Ralph, who's relaxed at the end of my mat. As I always point out, his actual given name is not Ralph, but Vince. People call him Wincy, all sorts of things. I call him Ralph, but it has caught on a bit. Stretch the arms up. Even he thinks he's called Ralph, don't you, Ralphie? There you go. You can see how much he reacted to that. Stretching up and take one leg back, all right? You need a bit of room in front of you and behind you. About the length of your mat should be fine. So if you start in the middle of your mat, that should provide enough space. Breathing easy. Follow a line from your inner groin through the deep belly all the way up to the fingertips. And think of that line as spacious and open and flowing. Light tone in the tummy, released in the roots of the neck. Draw energy up through the standing leg by press lifting. So as you press, there's energy rebounds upwardly to the hip joint. And then in your own time, begin to tip the scales, as it were. As the leg goes up, the body goes down. But this is all dependent on the energy going up into the hip joint, right? So really a proper discipline in this pose is to only move forwards, not through habit, not through thought, but simply through this natural movement that occurs as you draw, as there's energy drawn up into the hip joint, right? Breath deep, honest, and expressive. This is Virabhadrasana number 1, which you can come into in the way we have, or through, this is Virabhadrasana number 3, which you can come into this way or through Virabhadrasana number 1. Inhale, come on up. Big circle, big pose. Hands to heart, deep breath. I should say plural, deep breaths. Just letting it flow. Just letting it flow. Raise the arms again without impinging on the roots of the neck. Take the other leg back to your toe tips. Again, light tone on the tummy. Expressive, honest breath. Jaw soft. Focus on the stretch from the inner groin. It's a psychophysical stretch, which makes it beautiful. You know, you can only know the goddess by being the goddess. To do that, you give to her everything that's hers. Right? Everything that's hers is everything. Right? That's why we say everything is everything. That's why we say in the tradition that Prakriti, the goddess, as it were, is one. Right? Everything is one. In some religions, they even say, you know, they talk about it in terms of creation. Of course, that can lead to some problems if it's misunderstood. But, you know, one, everything is one. Okay. Beginning to come to up with the foot and down with the body, pushing energy, drawing energy up through the standing leg is what should drive the posture, right? And that's a meditation. It's powerful. Of course, these poses are powerful. But we need a powerful force to escape, as it were, the gravitational pull of the confusion, avidya, it's called confusion, where we confuse essence nature, which is always free, never waxes nor wanes, neither stained nor pure. It's just free, right? Limitless. And we confuse that for that which is not mine individually. You could say it is mine in a sense that everything is mine and everything's yours and everything's everything. Okay, calmly ascending back up. Big circle, hands to heart. Catch your breath. 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 deep breaths. Now I've turned back towards the screen for the next pose. You don't have to do that, but you might find that useful. The way I come into this pose isn't suitable for everyone. I come up with a straight leg and reach for the big toe like that. A better way for most people is to bend the leg. So go ahead and do that, unless you know you like to come up the straight leg way. The other hand on the hip. Breathing easy. One can experiment with extending the leg forwards. Uddita Hasta Padangusthasana. Okay, bring the leg down again. Well done, everyone. Place the foot, catch a breath. Doesn't take any prisoners, does it, that one? Take a few deep breaths, keep limber. So, you know, loosen up, add a little bit of, add a bit, oh my Lord, some people have got some great disco moves at home. Add some disco moves. Love to see you on the dance floor. We must arrange a party sometime soon. When you're ready, raise up your leg. Oh, please, you know, I'd love to see the dancing. I love it because you're good at it. I wouldn't like it if you weren't any good at it. Breathe easy, jaw soft, eyes soft. You know, enjoyment is part of yoga traditionally. Bhoga, it's called. And in the Sankhya Karika, for example, the main text on Sankhya Yoga, well, I tell you this, you can extend your leg, however much or however little feels appropriate. In the Sankhya Karika, they say that Prakriti is for enjoyment and liberation, for the enjoyment and liberation of the Purusha. And it's inferred That in fact it's through the enjoyment of Prakriti that the Purusha becomes liberated. Right? There's a connection there. So Prakriti, remember, is the field, the interdependent. Purusha is an attempt to describe that which is beyond conditions, liberated, free, fully expanded, Brahman or Brahma. Okay, good job. Leg down, shimmy out. Let's take another Mukha Svanasana. So come towards the front of your mat first, about the length of your foot, away from the front of your mat. Raise the arms up. Lightly tone the tummy. Inhale, exhale, fold. And down you come. Of course, because most of us will find our backs are dull, aching or tight doing this with straight legs, we should therefore bend the legs. We must insist categorically that none of those categories, dullness, aching or pain, are felt in any sustained way. If they're there, if there's a bit of dullness for a moment, but you can move your feet, move your legs, and it begins to dissolve, that's fine. But if there's no sign or indications that dullness or aching or pain in the back is dissolving, then you must bend the legs. That means nearly everyone, in all honesty, is much more practicing yoga better with bent legs. It partly depends on your anatomy too. How long are the legs? How long is the torso? How long are the arms? But of course, it also depends in quite a large measure on the current length and elasticity of the myofascia of the hamstrings, muscles on the back of the legs. One way or the other, as Blondie once said, step your feet back, okay, and pad your paws into a deep, deep, deep weave. The molecules of your hands with the molecules of the mat, breathing deep. And then, of course, spontaneous movement of the type that's actually useful. Moving left, moving right. Jaw soft, eyes soft, armpits open, inner armpits, outer armpits. There's so many things you could talk about in Adho Mukha Svanasana. Essentially, we want energy to go through the back, particularly the lumbar vertebrae. And so whatever conduces to that is important. What might conduce to that is potentially could include opening the inner armpits. So we sometimes describe that as the armpit chest. The inner armpits lengthen towards the inner groins. Another aspect might be opening up the inner groins, visualizing that space open. That pulls the kneecaps gently up. That draws the heels down without stealing any length out of the lower back to do so. We're not interested in the heels being down as any kind of sign of success, because for some people's anatomy, the heels will never be able to come down. And so that will be a ridiculous indicator of success simply because of the bone structure that some of us have. Okay, well done. Come down to Vajrasana, that is to say kneeling, with a block probably between the heels and buttocks, or a blanket. And you must take some support if your knees are tight in any way. In Vajrasana, one hand can rest on top of the other. You may find that there's movement of the body, so left and right and so on. I'm bringing over my mini computer so I can see you better from this lower angle. Jaw soft. Looking good this morning, everyone. Interlace your fingers. Stretch your arms diagonally away and rest your thumbs. Don't jump the gun. Wait for it. Raise the arms up. No, it's good that you're keen. Raise the arms up when you're ready, and breathe, enjoy. So enjoyment, of course, and love and generosity are all facets of the same thing, the same jewel, you could say. And that jewel in Sanskrit is known as the Chintamani. Mani, of course, means jewel. The Chinta part infers wish fulfilling or wish granting. So the wish fulfilling jewel manifests upon giving, right? That's how, that's why we have this aparigraha, whose flip side, aparigraha means something like not grasping, but whose flip side is generosity, you see. That's sort of the positive way of expressing the same thing, is to be generous. And it's not because there's some sort of moralizing going on. It's simply because generosity leads us to the wish-fulfilling jewel, right? Opening your hand means that you give yourself to the goddess, you trust in her, and what she gives back to you is this beautiful, clear mirror to see your true reflection, which is neither male nor female, young nor old, anything, nothing in particular, or you could say it's everything. And Buddhists, of course, they say form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Big, wide circle. Rest your hands. Deep, honest, expressive, I hope, breaths. So take a few of these deep, honest, expressive breaths. We're going to lay on our back next, so you can do that when you're ready. You might want a block nearby, because that can be useful. And it is essential, not just useful, to have a block if your head tips back, because otherwise the blood pressure in the head goes down a little too low. So you're laying on your back, possibly with a block. Great. Good job, everyone. Good laying on your back. You're quite good at that. Glad to see. Got a good skill set. And once you're on your back, taking a few breaths, legs bent, soles of the feet on the floor, hands can be on the upper chest. The breath expressive. Lower back relaxed. Jaw relaxed. Breath, as I say, expressive. Raise a leg and dorsey and plantar flex your foot. Right? So this, of course, is warming and melting and hydrating on a sort of what we might say physical level. But as we've already seen for ourselves, what happens physically has to happen mentally, has to happen spiritually, for it to be truly happening in an honest, pure way, rather than just a show. Right? I mean, we can make things look a certain way for other people, but we won't feel the holism of it ourselves if it's a show. It has to be everything given for the purity, that is, for the same experience to flow through all layers. Now, once you feel limber, then turn your heel in and toes out, cross that leg over the other leg, just beyond the lateral malleolus. That's the sort of fancy way of saying outer ankle. And then lift the foot that's on the floor off the floor. There's a gap between the legs. If you lift your head up, you should be able to plunge one hand through that gap, and the other arm comes around the outside, and you interlace. This is one of two versions, or not versions really, two postures that get the same name, Suchirandrasana, threading the needle. As I say, head support is often useful, so hopefully some of you have got that. And then there's some rolling about. You might roll left, you might roll right. The jaw is soft, the eyes are soft, the brain is soft, the throat is soft. Looking for sensations that are, well, that take you beyond words, right? So sufficiently rich. if they're rich enough, they release the mind from its descriptive role and put it more in an expressive role, right? Sometimes the head can roll with the body. Sometimes the body can roll and the head stays still. There's lots of ways to intuit this. Eventually back to center, great though it is, the pose. We'll go back to center when we're ready. Place the feet on the floor, tuck the buttocks under, hands on the upper chest, take deep breaths. So that's the plural of breaths, obviously. Giving to the breath is the same as giving to the goddess. Giving to the goddess what was already hers is like taking off this enormous weight. An enormous weight is dropped. She takes the weight so easily, so happily. The weight she can't take, that we sometimes give her, is the weight of me, myself, and I. Don't give that to the goddess, you know. That's cruel. But she can take the burden of being, you know, the sense of being somebody is lifted from us. When you see the selflessness of all manifestation, raise up a leg and move the foot. So to summarize this in a simpler way, relax. That's it. Relax. You know, and if the mind goes sort of alarmed, relax about that. If the mind's like, what am I supposed to be doing? How am I supposed to be relaxing? Maybe I'm not relaxing well enough. Relax about that. That's Prakriti. That's her. You've seen her now, you see. You didn't make that happen. Reactions aren't made. They just arise according to conditions. Condition A meets condition B, and condition C arises. Okay, heel in, toes out. Cross that leg over the other, above the lateral malleolus, the outer ankle, foot dorsiflexed. That is to say, it's not pointing, but it's drawn back like it, same relationship that your foot has to your ankle if you were standing. Lift up the foot that's on the floor, plunge through the gap, interlace, and again, roll about a bit. Right? So you might roll left, you might roll right. You're looking for richness, sensations that are meditatively absorbing. The head might roll with the body might roll without the head joining, head staying. The head can roll, the body stays still, you know. Lots of different permutations rather, of the same thing. Suchirandasana. Okay, good job. Come out slow and easy. And roll over onto your side to come up from the side. We're going to sit in a comfortable seated position. Tadasana is recommended. So you might need a block, just searching for one here. But you don't have to sit in Tadasana. You know, another seated position can be chosen. Time is running away with us this morning, good Lord. And just check you're all okay there at home. You look good. Yeah, even before your hair's brushed, you're looking good. It's impressive. So Tadasana is a pose that's, its praise is so highly sung in so many of the Hatha texts. Breathe through your nose, jaw soft, eyes soft. But you can sit in a different pose if this is not comfortable, in terms of sitting in an upright that position. Hands to the heart. We're going to chant, may all be happy, may all be healthy, may all see goodness, may there be no worry. The deeper you can let yourself feel it, the more it points to selflessness. In other words, what you are, I am, and what I am, you are. So your suffering, I feel. Your happiness, I feel. So that's called feeling of someone else's suffering is known as part of the Brahma Viharas, Karuna. The feeling of someone else's joy is also part of what's called the Brahma Viharas. It's called mudita. The root mud means joy, and mudita. So may all be happy, may all be healthy, may all see goodness, may there be no worry. Very easy to sing. Take a deep breath in. May all be happy. May all be healthy. May all see goodness. May there be no worry. Now Om to seal the deal. Om. And deep breaths. Buttocks relaxed, knees relaxed, thighs relaxed. Again, we'll use Om to affirm. So if you hear in yoga tradition someone saying Om after a statement, and if you agree with that statement, you'll mirror, you'll repeat that Om yourself. So here's such a statement. May the merit gained in our acting thus go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings. Om. Releasing the hands. And we'll lay on our backs in a pose where we can really finally give everything. Savasana. In some early Hatha texts, no poses are mentioned, but instead practices are mentioned. Practices of Laya Yoga, of dissolution yoga. And it is in this context that Savasana first appears as a dissolution practice. Make sure you're warm. If you're not in the UK, if you're in Europe somewhere, you probably are warm, probably roasting. If you're in the UK, you probably want a blanket and a hot water bottle because, quite northern hemisphere, isn't it? Quite northern part of the northern hemisphere, really. Align well, and then give everything. Start with weight. letting go. You can lay as long as you like, obviously. But if you're ready to come up, you'll feel into the body with a little wiggle of the toes and the fingers, and maybe intuitive stretches. And when ready, rolling to one side, the left, first of all. And then in your own time to the right. Coming round, again in ways that are intuitive. And eventually, in your own time, coming up from the side. Thank you so much. I'm looking at the screen down there, but I know I should look here, but I do want to see your lovely faces. Thank you so much for your time and for wearing your Vajrasati t-shirts, those of you that have got them. They look lovely. You model them beautifully. Thank you so much. Have a marvelous day.